Jimmy the G Him here with you with another video today. The NBA draft is finished. Our next bit of news as far as our NBA rookie class is concerned will be the beginning of July. July 2nd, Summer League action gets underway, and we'll get our first impression of the 2018 NBA draft class. Of course, you got some LeBron news and free agency news at the end of this month and beginning of July as well. But until then, I thought we'll look at a little NFL today over the next couple of weeks as we get closer to NFL training camps getting underway. We'll look at some NFL, and right now a big story in the news is Jameis Winston in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His 3-game suspension appears to be in place. He will miss the first 3 games of the season for Tampa. But the question I wanted to look at today is, what does Tampa Bay do going forward long term with Jameis, and what should they do, and what would I do if I was Tampa Bay concerning Jameis Winston? Alright, first I'll look at this from a football perspective. I know the situation he was involved in college with the sexual assault, in this situation with the Uber driver. Without looking at the details of what happened or what might have happened in that, this is strictly from a football perspective. Winston, the player, his first 3 seasons in the NFL, he's put up very good numbers for a young quarterback. The team just haven't won. They did have a winning record in 2016 of 9-7, but you see Winston through 45 games has 69 touchdown passes, 44 interceptions, a good percentage of touchdowns, 4.3 touchdown rate, 2.5 interception rate. You can live with that. You can actually win games with that. Career high in 2017 of a passer rating, 92.2, but had an average QBR. I know people have mixed feelings about QBR, but it can sometimes show you if your stats are empty or your impact on winning games. His career low QBR was 50. That was in 2017. So from a football perspective, Jameis Winston, not necessarily a home run as the number 1 draft pick, but he hasn't been a bust, hasn't been a disappointment, so to speak, on the field with his play, just sort of average. So now you come look at the money he's owed. The Bucs have already picked up his 5th-year option for 2019, although that is only guaranteed if he can pass a physical in March, meaning that if he can't pass a physical in March, meaning if he gets hurt before then, the Bucs will be on the hook for that money. But as long as it's not for injury, they can cut him in March and not owe him the $20 to $21 million they will owe him for the 5th year in 2019. And that's where I want to focus in on today. Does the latest trouble with Jameis give the Bucs incentive to move on from him at the end of this year or before the end of this year? And I would have to answer that question. If I was making a decision, I would say yes. Now, first of all, you have to look at the type of player Jameis is, and we just saw his stats. Those stats will put you in the realm of a Kirk Cousins type player, but not the impact. I think Cousins might have had a little more impact than Washington. They did make the playoffs, and I know sometimes that can be a matter of luck, what division you're in as far as making the playoffs. But I'll say Kirk Cousins' time in Washington was a little more successful. But the Redskins were sort of okay with moving on from him. On the flip side, Minnesota was happy to get him. So I'll say Jameis Winston's impact has been a little less than what Kirk Cousins was. You see young quarterbacks like Matt Stafford, Derek Carr, although Stafford's not as young anymore, but they've made the big money without having to win games. But I question, has that been the best thing for their teams? Are the Raiders and are the Lions in great position with them making that type of money? Same thing with Matt Ryan, although he's the highest paid player in the league now. The Falcons have gone to a Super Bowl. Hasn't really had much of a knock on him outside of football. But from a strictly football perspective, is giving him that money the best thing the Falcons could have done, or him taking that money, is that the best thing that could have happened for them winning the Super Bowl? I don't think it is, and I think history sort of indicates that, as Tom Brady, the successful Patriots, Brady never been the highest paid player in the league. Also, you see young quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, last year Carson Wentz, combination with Nick Foles, able to win the Super Bowl. So I think not spending the most money at that position is a help. Winston isn't in line for a contract like that, but the money he would be in line for, I think you can find another player, or younger player once again in the draft, or a gap stop veteran who can give you the same impact as a Jameis Winston, but for less money. So I think the Bucs turning the page from him before the end of this season. You have to see how this season plays out. I can see very easily if the Bucs start 0-3, him missing the first 3 games. You got the Saints, the Eagles, Steelers, 2 of those games, or 1 of those games on the road, 2 at home. If they start 0-3 and Jameis comes back and they're not clicking, and you're still sort of getting bad press in the media, something else flares up, although they've reportedly been happy with what he's been doing in that organization. From my perspective, I could move on from him at that point, and just, you cut the chance of him being hurt and you being on the hook for that money. At least when it comes to the end of the season, after the season has played out, if you're not in the playoffs, I can definitely see getting rid of Jameis Winston and starting over in the quarterback market again. I look at this situation with him, just his off-the-field trouble, as sort of like an injury-prone player. You might draft a guy who had a history of injuries in college. He appears to be healthy, but at that first sign of injury, can you really trust him going forward? And I think this is the case with Winston, although from a legal standpoint, nothing looks like it will come of this. I don't know about going forward. One positive on keeping him would be that any contract you give him, you will have the leverage in giving him a very team-friendly contract, as you would be having him out of not owing him a ton of money. But just from a winning standpoint, I think you might be wasting time, or just cut to the chase if you don't think he can lead you to that promised land eventually. I guess that's what I would do. 2019, if I'm the general manager of Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jameis Winston wouldn't be my quarterback. Possibly going to a Super Bowl, just a vast improvement that could always change things. But aside from that, I think I'm moving on if I'm Tampa. Tell me what you think in the comments. Do you agree? Is it time for Tampa, in the back of their minds, to be thinking of another quarterback? What do you think? That's my take on it. Once again, Jimmy the G him here. I'll look at another burning question in the NFL coming up, something I've been seeing as training camps get set to get underway. And of course, we'll get back to talking more NBA. As always, if you're new to the page, please subscribe, like the video if you like it, and stay tuned for the more content and more comment from me, Jimmy the G him. Thanks.